Hello everybody, welcome back to Hidden Harvest with Liz. Today I have got a huge unveiling of seeds, and I have no idea how this is going to go. It's a mess. But quick update, hopefully the next couple of, probably not this month, but next month we'll actually be able to go back out into the yard. Right now we're dealing with some really bad temperatures out there. We've actually put on hold the gardening stuff that is going on, but even though the stuff outside has slowed down, my influx and my ideas have not stopped. So right now we're just going to run through all of the stuff and things that I have pulled in. If editing Liz can do by chance do like an overlay or whatever, we had a group of strawberries that came in. I was hoping to get them into the yard. That did not happen. So I've got them growing in small little pots around the house, hoping to keep them alive until the not sub-zero temperatures, but the teens temperatures go away. I was hoping to get them into the ground while they were dormant so that they would come up next year, because strawberries need a chill time, which is like an amount of time that the plant has to be dormant in a chilly environment in order to produce fruit for the next year. That's what the chill time is, and my strawberries need chill time. I have no idea exactly where in the US they were grown, and I also don't know in what conditions. For all I know, they were in a greenhouse, in which case they have gained no chill hours. So I really need to get them out in the yard. They need like 300 hours of chill time, I think is what it was said. So as soon as I can get them out there, I will be covering that, but I have to wait until the teens disappear, and we've got, I think, like 3 or 4 more days coming up where it's going to be down in the teens, so I have to wait on that. Plus the bed is not prepped, but I will take you along for the bed prepping. Don't even worry about that. Let's cover the mess, and let me just go ahead and say it is a mess, and that this is crazy. Okay, first off, what I just ordered were my turmeric and supposed to be ginger, but all they sent me was turmeric. So we'll be growing turmeric probably inside the greenhouse along with the ginger. I'm gonna have to do another order. This is a full pound. It was supposed to be a half a pound of ginger and a half a pound of turmeric so I could plan it out and get more of my own. That didn't happen. And apparently, hey, psst, psst, no, I'm watching you. I have a kitty trying to get into some of the seeds because I have them all stacked on the bed so I could talk about them. Apparently, the ants in our area are extremely desperate. They're looking for anything. I set the bag that these things came in. I was planning on leaving them in there until the greenhouse is prepped for me to go ahead and store them inside the greenhouse and put some stuff around them to help keep them warm until it's the right season for them to sprout. That's not going to happen just yet because we're still waiting on a tool to fasten the greenhouse down. I will go ahead and post a picture over here. Probably editing Liz is a good place because there's a lot of vacant area over here where the microphone is, of what happened to my greenhouse during the storm. Hey! No! Stop eating the box! Cats are omnivores. They will eat anything. They're like goats. Hey! I'm watching you. I will come over there and put you on my screen if you don't stop. Okay, you've asked for it. This is Hiroki, and he's eating my box. Now he's eating my arm. Why must you do this? Anyway, he's got a lot of energy. He likes chewing on boxes. I don't know why. So aside from the ginger and turmeric, I plan on ordering the ginger too. I also order some sunchokes, which are some beautiful flowers plus a very big survival plant that you can get. Basically, when you put these things in the ground, put them where you expect them to stay, because it's hard to get these particular tubers out of the ground completely. All it takes is one of these like donut hole shaped ones right here. All it takes is one of these still being in the ground somewhere, and they will come back and they will reproduce. So, I'm hoping these guys stay alive. From the way they feel, they have not been dried. I don't even know if these guys can be dried and then stored and then brought back to life later on. I know that they typically store in ground. That being said, they have been shipped here, and of course they were shipped during the worst possible week for me, or well, couple of weeks, for me to actually get them in the ground, so I'm storing them. I have gotten ants into both of the bags, so I couldn't even keep them inside the store bags that they were in, so I packaged them as best as I could in containers. I don't have another container like this to put these in, because these are much bigger. Otherwise, I'd set them off the paper towel and allow them to like not sit in moisture. I'm pretty sure moisture is not exactly good for them. So don't take my word on how to store these guys. I haven't even researched it. I got them in, the ants got into the bags, and I had to find something really quick. So that just happened last night. So on from those, Now, in the last year, I did videos of this on my gaming channel. If you guys don't know that I also started out as a gaming channel content creator. That's actually why I started this channel, is because I was doing gardening stuff and I was talking about it during my videos and I was talking about it during my streams, and people were like, hey, we would like to see your garden. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll show it a couple of times. And the videos did very well, so I was like, let me just take the content and put it on its own channel. That way it's not getting lost in all of my videos on gaming, because I produce videos like 5 times a week on my gaming channel and 3 times a week on my VODs channel and about 2 times a week on my clips channel. So it kind of gets lost in the sauce on all of those other things. Plus I also stream over on Twitch, and it obviously does not go there because I'm not streaming it. So it gets its own channel. And a lot of the games that I play, I do gardening, and that's one of the aspects that I really, really enjoy. Right now, my biggest game that I play is 7 Days to Die, and there is gardening in that game. So I spend a lot of time working on getting the garden looking right, and hopefully at some point or another they'll get a mod where the garden looks a little bit better and does a whole lot more stuff, but I digress. Let's get into where I'm actually talking about the things that are in here that I have already unveiled on the other channel, but I have not unveiled on this channel, so we're going to cover it really quick. I actually don't know what's inside this box. This might be the empty one. Let me make sure. Yeah, that's the empty one. This was a smaller box. I need to designate this box for something, because these are very useful boxes. I've got the big botanical interest box. The first time I ordered from them, I got a whole lot of stuff. I'm not going to try and go through all of the seeds. I've actually got videos where I went through a whole lot of my seeds. But essentially, what I've got inside this box for now are my labelers for the garden for whenever I start my seeds, because this year I started some of my plants from seeds. Some of the later plants I planted by seed. I didn't start any of my seeds in the springtime, like my tomatoes or anything else like that, and I will definitely be doing that this year. So I've got some of those. I've got some rooting hormone. This one has got a mixture of my old seeds and the new seeds that I purchased at the beginning of the gardening season. So I've already covered most of these seeds. What I haven't covered are some of the seeds that I saved from this past year, and some of the seeds I have ordered for this year to plant in the upcoming year. And I think I've got a few of them in here that I did cover in my previous video when I first got that one, so I don't need to cover what's inside this box. It's just more of, that is what exists inside this box, is just the old seeds. So that's just me saying, okay, I've got these seeds. This is aside from the stuff that I'm fisting to talk about, which is all in here. Let me go grab the other thing. This is my gardening basket. It's actually got like 3 containers. I got like a big area where I could put big produce, a smaller area where I could put smaller produce like cherry tomatoes or something like that over here, and then a center area where I can stack my gloves and my pruners and things like that in the center, which is really, really cool. But for now, in the off season, it's just holding all of my gardening supplies that haven't found a home yet, because I'm moving my garden area into the barn, because all the barn stuff is being moved down into the lower part of the property for our bigger garage, I guess you could say. So all that stuff is getting moved down there. I have got little bags like this. Yeah, that's the mullet, I think. We went down the road to help somebody put a wheel on, and there was just like mullet grass growing there. So I just snatched some of the seeds, and I'm going to take a peek at them to see whether or not I can grow them. It wouldn't necessarily, I mean, it is a grain, but it wouldn't necessarily be something that I want to plant for us. It might be something that I've seen people do garden inside their chicken coop, and then they put, what would it be, like, hardwire cloth or some kind of fencing over the top. I think it's called hardwire cloth, and they staple it over the top of that, and they plant seeds into it, but it keeps the chickens from digging out the seeds, and they can get the little greens that are on the top. I'm thinking about using it for something like that, which is the reason why I grabbed it. First, I have to see whether or not I can grow it, because for all I know, it's like a variety that you can't grow from seed. I have no idea. I'm going to take a peek at that, but I have been collecting seeds, especially when I see something in my yard. We are still trying to clean up and clean out that stuff. There's a few things that I have found in the woods right next to it, like a mulberry bush that's kind of a tree that's kind of surrounded by a whole lot of stuff, so it's not producing and it's not doing well, that I'm hoping that maybe this upcoming year I can root and put into a better place. We'll see. And then I have got all of my lettuce seeds, this is not lettuce, this is the wheat. Yeah, that's the wheat. My lettuce seeds are in here. And I've got my last batch of lettuce. Oh no. My last batch of lettuce seeds sitting in here and drying the rest of the way, along with my lettuce from this past year, because my lettuce did very well. It did eventually bolt in the off season, and it made some really cute flowers that a whole lot of bugs really enjoyed. So I'm like, you know what? Even if I don't necessarily grow a whole lot of the lettuce, the fact that it grew at all, because a whole lot of my beds were brand new and none of the crops really did great, which is probably what I'm going to have to deal with this time because we're moving the garden to a new area and the whole area has having to get leveled and the beds are being put in, and eventually we may or may not be running irrigation to them, in which case these beds are going to be a work in progress for a couple of years. It's going to take a while to get the fertility rate inside those beds up. But because these things grew and they stayed alive, basically, in our environment, even through the heat, and even in beds that weren't exactly high fertility, I held on to the seeds because they seemed like they were a good idea. Out of all of the things that I grew this past year, that's really the only thing I was able to grab seeds on. I tried to grow out my radishes and get seeds, but the ants got to them. We have a huge ant problem, which reminds me I need to order some once we get the other beds in. Anyway, I don't want to do those too soon. I don't know what storage is like for them, but apparently beneficial nematodes help out with a lot of garden pests because they're in the soil and they help take care of some of the bugs that would normally stay in there, like big grubs that like to eat the roots of your plants. A lot of the ants that colonize areas, the root rot nematode, which is already in our soil. I noticed that from having grown tomatoes last year. So I'm going to be ordering those after we get the beds in so I can treat the beds and the pathways in between. So I'm hoping that will take care of some of the ant issues, but because of the ants, not a whole lot of plants have actually gone to seed because they have been annihilated by the ants. So that's another thing. But one of the big things that we're going to be going ahead and showing is something else that my husband found, well, one of his buddies found and told him about, and he brought it home to me, and I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it, but I'm definitely going to do something with it. Hang on. Okay. Now, in case you weren't aware, the big box stores like Home Depot, Lowe's, and a whole lot of other ones that sell seeds, typically they only sell seeds from that year because germination rates can drop off after a couple of years, and it's just kind of a thing that they do. They market for the year that they're grown, and after that year they toss them and they get a new group of seeds in. Well, somehow or another, one of the guys managed to find a dumping spot where these seeds were actually dumped. There were like 5 bags of seeds from this year that were just dumped. So everybody who was interested basically got a bag. So my husband Bam brought one of the bags home, and I've spent a good few nights organizing all of the seeds. Now, some of them may or may not grow. I have no idea if they will. Take, for instance, the easy to grow seeds. They basically have like a clay coating or something like that over the top of them, making them easier to grab or easier to see. These typically are recommended to be used in the first year because their germination rate knocks off pretty fast because of the clay or whatever they're coated with. But that's a lot of seeds, and maybe I have to plant 3 of the seeds inside the same place, but either way, the seeds still seem like they're going to, I'm still going to try and grow them. And who knows, through all of this, let me see if I can actually tilt it where you guys can see it or move it where you guys can see it, because this is crazy. This boggles my mind, I'll be honest with you. I've got way too much stuff going on up here. Way too much stuff. Okay. I have got this box. And it's got everything from squash to beans and corn. So this is basically all of my bigger seeds are inside this one. There's also okra, which I don't think they're huge seeds. They're just decent sized seeds. But it's got zucchinis, winter squashes, pumpkins. We got all kinds of beans. I'll be honest with you, I haven't had a whole lot of luck with beans. My bush beans, they grew, they produced a little bit, and then they were just gone. Things kept eating them. So I'm wondering between all of these varieties if I can find a bean that actually works for me. So here's a whole lot of beans and squash and all that kind of stuff. And then we've got... Okay, and this one is like peppers, tomatoes, herbs. I think eggplants, spinach, chard, kale, lettuce greens, and mustard greens. There's like 2 packs of mustard greens back here hiding. But this is a lot of packages, and I have already allowed family members to come over, pick whatever it is that they wanted, and I'm not sure exactly what all I'm gonna... There's no way I can plant all of these seeds, so I have kept it open for all of my husband's buddies to come over here and like pick seeds if any of them grow. But most of the people who are around here, I don't know very many gardeners around my particular area. I know a few farmers that raise animals, and I have quite a few friends and family members who go out and hunt, but not a lot who actually garden. It's a whole different beast knowing how to garden. There's a huge difference between taking these seeds and tossing them into the ground and actually knowing how to garden. It's not the same thing. So, yeah, we have way too many seeds for each one of these breeds. Plus, we have got this box. Hang on. There's other stuff in here. This box. And this one is full of onions, carrots. This is all the root crops, radishes, beets. I'm not sure what this alien pod is. Kohlrabi. It looks like an alien pod. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing Alien Isolation pop aliens out of this thing. Anyway, Kohlrabi. Guys, tell me how it's pronounced. I don't know. Cucumbers are also in here, and there's lots and lots of different... Most of these are cucumbers rather than anything else. And then something else I don't think I even remember seeing locally was a whole bunch of these packages right here, which are seed tape. And there's radishes, beets, one that's for making salsa. So it's like a seed tape with all of those things in it. And then one that's got lettuces. Anyway, so I assume that it spaces them out for you, and that's how that works. But this is overwhelming, the amount of seeds that are inside this box. And when I think about how much food this could grow for people, and they just get thrown out, it seems like a travesty to me. Now, mind you, it might grow a lot of people if a lot of people planted it. So I guess there's that. There's not a whole lot of people who grow things nowadays. It used to be like everybody had at least a garden out there where they could get a couple of fresh crops, and everybody had one. It'd be weird if you didn't. Nowadays, it's weird that you have a garden, or it's a hobby, or a flower garden, and that's it. You don't actually grow anything for food, and that seems odd to me. But, I mean, I guess life goes the way it does. But the point is I was thinking about a lot of different things I was going to order, and I actually had a list, a specific list of things that I have researched, watched other people talk about, and things like that, that I had been trying to cultivate my perfect list for this year of things that I wanted to grow. But it seems like in a couple of my beds, at least, I will be running several experiments, because this is way too many seeds to not experiment with and write up, okay, this breed works for me, this breed does not work for me, not this breed. They're not breeds. This brand of seeds, or this organic seed works, or this heirloom seed works, or this determinate works, or this indeterminate works better, or whatever, because there's still so much stuff I'm learning about gardening that I feel intimidated by this amount of seeds. But it's like, some of these tomatoes, it's like they're supposed to go, they're perfect for container gardens. And I was like, I wasn't planning on doing tiny containers, but they have cloth pots now, so why not throw a couple of them in there and just see how they do in our area? I don't know, they might work. So there's all of that. I do not want to plant everything inside these boxes in 1 year, and thankfully most seeds, aside from these will probably, I'll have to try these somewhere, somehow. There's so many different types, like 5,000 types of cilantro. Good thing I love the hell out of some cilantro. But there's so many in here, but I want to get these guys planted. These are the ones that have like the easy to pick up clay stuff around them. I mean, they've even got eggplants in here, asparagus, cilantro, lettuces, lots and lots of different types of herbs. So I can probably get all of those planted out, even if it's just into containers, for this year, to make sure that these get used up, because they may not even sow in 1 year. But a lot of seeds last 4 years. Some only last a couple of years, like I think onions and carrots and stuff like that have a pretty decent drop off date after a couple of years. But the rest of the seeds, it's like 4 or 5 years and they're good. Now, I don't know if I can use all of these seeds in 4 or 5 years, but I'm going to try. And if that means put in the greenhouse with heat in it to try and get more out of all of these seeds, because this is a blessing. Like, have you ever felt like someone was saying, you need to do this thing, and for reasons you don't understand, you need to do this thing? This right here tells me I need to do this thing. And that's weird because I don't like that feeling. I have been told I need to do this thing and failed at it before. And I don't like the intimidation of it. Whenever we were putting the garden together and I looked at the amount of grow space I was going to have and the amount of stuff that I was going to be responsible, I suddenly felt very intimidated by it. And at the same time, I'm like, I feel intimidated because I feel like I'm taking on something whole new and brand new, and it's a whole lot of work. But at the same time, I've actually been training for it for about 8 years, longer actually, because every single place that I've lived before, I've grown something. Even if it didn't do well, I grew something. The last couple of years, my garden has done better, and I focused in a whole lot more on certain things. Certain trials that I wanted to run, certain things I was interested in, and I spent a whole lot more time studying and learning from people who garden on a regular basis. Like, I pulled up my tomatoes and looked at the roots and saw root rot nematode, whereas before it would have just looked like a thick root to me because I didn't know any better. So I can't say that I'm not completely ready for the responsibility. It's just an intimidating responsibility, but I feel like it landed in my lap and I have to do something with it. I'm not sure what or why, but I feel like, yeah, I need to do something with it, and I definitely need to do it this year. I can't think of any other reason without bringing up politics or the worldly problems into this video, which I try to do only on the what if videos. It's very intimidating and very telling to see this. Now, aside from this, I also have other stuff. Yes, guys, I have... Before all of this, I had actually ordered things to come in, but they were very specific items to come in. This is kind of a big smorgasbord of I don't know what. Okay, my last order from Botanical Interest came in yesterday, and I have one more order from MI Gardener that's coming in, and then my seeds will be done. They've been done. As a matter of fact, I took several things off of my list because I was like, well, it's not exactly the brand I wanted, but there are so many peppers in there. So many peppers, there's no reason for me to order any more peppers. I don't need any more peppers. I will try to grow those, because I don't know any better from these brands that I'm listening to people say, this one does well, this one does well, this one's got good flavor, and I can write it down, and it's like, okay, I'll try it in my climate and see how it goes, because I like the way that one works. But then I've got, like, bags and, well, tiny... I have tiny seed packs over there of several different types I have never tried before, so why not try those instead for this year? Anyway, but the things that even between that box, thankfully I didn't overlap any of the stuff that was inside that box that I was really, really worried about. I got me some celery. Also, I will say that the artwork that they put on their Botanical Interest stuff and all of the information that they put on their seed packets is amazing. I will just go ahead and say that I don't see that on normal seed packets. I haven't gotten the MI Gardener packets yet. I haven't seen theirs to see how their stuff goes, but like the store-bought ones, they don't contain as much information. Like, it even tells you what like the tiny plant looks like in case you've never grown it, or if you're a brand new gardener, it'll tell you what the tiny plant looks like so you don't mistake it for a weed. And it also gives you other tips on when to grow it. Now, you can't always go by exactly what's said on there because everybody's environment is different. Like, a lot of people in my area and south of me, they do not start their onions indoors. They start their onions outdoors, and they start them in the late fall. I didn't even start any, but I threw some seeds down whenever I realized that was like more of my area. I'd been watching people who were further up north. So you kind of need to maybe find some local gardeners. I know that a lot of people say go on Facebook. I don't have Facebook. I haven't had Facebook in years, so I don't have any groups on Facebook. But maybe find some people around your area, or if you've got family that do a whole lot of gardening, to find out when it is that they plant out certain types of crops. I have found one person that I can watch in Georgia, but it's southern Georgia, and I happen to know from having family in southern Georgia, whenever we're up here and it's really, really cold, it is like very, very warm, and gnats are all over the place down there, down around that area, I think is where they're at. So even just between the northern part of, well, we're not even in the northern part, we're in like the mid part of Georgia, and the people that I watch are in the southern part of Georgia. It's Lazy Dog Farmer. Yeah, he does a whole lot of figs, which I studied up on my figs because I wanted my figs to survive. And then they're in the southern part of Georgia, down around where the rest of our family is, and that was actually very interesting to see all those folks. There's one other person, but don't know their name off the top of my head. I feel bad, but I don't know their name. But they also started their onions in the fall. So even though you read on the seed packet that you should start at this time and you should do it this way, it's all about what works in your area, because these are just general instructions about when you should start them, and you kind of have to guesstimate. Like, you have a frost day that is on this date, but you've lived in that area long enough to know that this frost date is kind of iffy. Like around here, we have a frost date that usually happens a little bit before Easter every single year. I never plant out before Easter. The one time I tried to, I was like, I'm going to take a chance, I'm going to do it. They died. Every single time before Easter, I don't plant anything before Easter. Now, this year is going to be weird because Easter is the 31st of March. So it's an early Easter this year. I don't think I should plant out that early. Even knowing that I should wait until after Easter to plant, I don't think it's safe to plant until after mid-April. Yeah, probably mid-April, and then I would feel safe to actually plant out, because there's always one last frost for us, and it always kills things off. Like peach plants and stuff like that, they'll bud up and then they'll drop their buds because the frost comes in. So you kind of really have to know your environment. And if you're brand new to your area, it's time to start a journal or start keeping track of how your seasons work. Like in middle US, tomatoes are very vibrant through most of their season. In the South, it gets so hot that all of the tomatoes during midsummer drop all of their blooms and won't produce. So a lot of people in the South grow a whole lot of determinate varieties and very few indeterminate varieties, which is a determinate is it grows up to a certain height, it produces all of its fruit, and then it's done. So the plant is just good, it's done, and you can like pull it up and put something else in its place. And indeterminate, it just keeps growing and it produces a little bit over time, but the problem is it's susceptible to pest problems, it's susceptible to blight, it's you have to put it on larger trellises, and of course it drops its blooms whenever it gets above 90 degrees, so it just depends on your area as to what you should grow. That's just like an aside before you see any indicators on here about stuff you should probably be planting. Make sure you actually talk to people in your area that grow if you can. Or like I have done the hard way, sadly, is just experiment every single year and expect a lot of failure and some success that you can be very, very happy with. The next thing I've got is that you guys can see them, because every time I've shown these seed packets, whenever editing Liz goes back and watches it, she's like, you can't see the seed packet. There we go. These are gourds. I have watched several people grow these, and it seems like it's very easy to get the seeds back from these. Otherwise, I wouldn't even worry about it. But I've been looking for an alternative to like sponges and stuff like that, because I don't like buying them. They don't last all that long, and I feel like that's just more waste that goes in the garbage. But if I can grow my own and maybe even turn them into, I don't know, gifts for people, I think it would be an interesting project to keep me busy during the wintertime anyway. I don't plan on taking as much on projects as I have this past year, because I've got several video projects that I'm working on, and they've really got me going. There was one type of pepper that I heard people talk about whenever I was younger. This is kind of like a nostalgia thing. Whenever I was younger, my mom used to make peppers that she would stuff meat into, and onions, and was it tomatoes maybe? I don't know, it's been a long time. But I think she used bell peppers, and the bell peppers that grow around here can sometimes turn out bitter. You have to get the right ones. So I was trying to find another pepper where I can make that same recipe, but I don't know, either sweeter or a little bit of spice or something like that. And I've been told these poblano peppers are really good for stuffing and then baking and stuff like that. So it was one that I had already ordered, and I didn't take it off my list because of that. So as an extra pepper, we're just going to have to see how it is. And this one I specifically got because there is a content creator that I was watching, and she has an issue with, how do you say it? Vine borers? Squash vine borers. They had a serious issue with those until they got this particular brand of squash. And the last couple of years that I have done it, I have always lost all of my squash plants before they could do much of anything. And these produce like a small gourd that's almost like this big, and not a whole lot of people in my family like squash. I'm one of the few people who like squash. So I figured I would try this and just see if I can get them to actually produce anything. They say this is their favorite brand, and they kept growing it, and I watched them create stuff out of it, and I was like, okay, I'll give that one a try, because every single year I'll make some summer squash and it will produce for like 1 month, and then the vine borers will get after it and I won't get any more. And I've never actually managed to get a winter squash to survive the entire year. It's also because I was learning, but the point is I've never had one survive the whole time, so squash is kind of limited. We only have like a tiny little window where we actually got squash. So that is all of the seeds. I've ordered a few from MI Gardener, and I'll give you guys an update on that whenever it comes in. He's looking a little bit sad. He probably needs a little bit more water. He's looking a little bit sad, guys. We've had to run the area where there's only like 2 windows that we have right now that are facing anywhere where light is good. And one of them is next to our wood burning stove. So he's staying very warm. The problem is the soil dries out really fast, so I'm constantly having to check their soil. And now that I feel it, it actually no, it's still moist under there. I'm bringing up stuff, so it's still got water under there. He probably just needs a little bit extra light. I might move him to a different window for a couple of days and see how he does. I really want to be able to move these guys into the greenhouse so they're not in here completely drying out, and they're not being subjected to varying temperatures, because when it gets really, really cold outside, we run the wood burning stove. There's not a thermostat on that. So it can get really, really hot in the living room, and it can get really, really cold in the living room. So those guys need some help. And then, you poor dude, you just dropped a leaf. Don't do that. They're gonna think I'm holding you hostage. And then we've got Franny, the fig. Both of them are producing. As a matter of fact, all but one set of my figs are now producing leaves. So that is good. And let me go grab our newest addition. My living room is actually being taken over. Now we have strawberries. And this is not the only one. I've actually got a long pot that's sitting inside the only other window, which is above our sink, which is not a very convenient place because we've got like a tiny little counter space for any dirty dishes and for prepping meals. So the big pot of strawberries is just waiting for me to be able to make the area where they're supposed to go and get those guys moved outside so they can get their chill hours in. But I needed to get them inside some sort of dirt to keep them alive until I could get them outside. I didn't want to transplant them out there. Wow, we had we got to like 19 degrees, 18, 19 degrees. And I think that's just really too cold for plants that are not established to live through, so I just wanted to keep them inside until I can get them outside. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I think that is an update on everything that I have going on right now, aside from the MI Gardener seeds that I haven't quite gotten in yet. But after those guys come in, I've got to start making a plan for how I'm going to plant things out, even if I don't have the garden quite in the ground yet. Still waiting for it to be leveled out and the beds to be put in. I do know that most of the beds will probably remain empty for most of the year because it costs a lot to put soil into beds. Like for one of my 4x8 by 12, it's 12 deep, one of those beds, if I was to only put garden soil in there and have it bulk delivered, it would cost $1,300 to deliver dirt for one bed. So we have to take some of the scraped up dirt from our actual yard, which is fine because it's clay and we dry out a whole lot, which is something I didn't take into account in last year's garden, is the dry out period during the summertime. And I needed to make sure that I took that into account. So the last couple of beds that I put several layers of clay that actually hold water, that hold water better. And I put those into the garden beds, and those beds look a whole lot better than the other ones. So I definitely learned something there, which is good because when the next beds come in, they're going to be there for a while. So we're going to have to make sure that we get a whole bunch of clay from leveling the ground out. And then we're going to have to try and find some place that sells, we've got some place that has like what they call black dirt, which is kind of like broken down stuff, but it's not the best stuff in the world. And then top it off with some garden soil on the last couple of inches, and then slowly over time produce more like compost and everything for them to go in there. Plus, I've got an idea for a layering method that I plan on doing along the bottom that has some cardboard and a leaf layer. I've actually got some leaves that are composting right now that are waiting to go into the beds as soon as the beds are ready. And then we're going to also do core gardening, at least for this first year, because I don't see us putting the irrigation system in this year as much as I would like to, so we don't have to worry about moving anything. I just don't think we have the finances for it for this year. So I'm going to use core gardening, which is basically building up. The original part of it was, I think it's Sahara people. They use grass, Sahara grass cores inside their garden to hold on to hydration. Well, in my case, I don't have a whole lot of grass, and I do have some pine needles, but pine can also raise the acidity depending on how old the needles are. So I won't be using pine either. I think I can use leaves. And just make sure that there are leaves and sticks mixed in so they don't do the compacting thing and not break down over time. And try to handle the water issue that way. So that will also take up some of the room. Thankfully, not a whole lot of the plants that I'm going to be doing will need very deep beds for right now. I plan on waiting on the carrots until the fall time, so it should have time to break down everything that it needs to before I plant those in. And I think the rest of them, even though there might be some that have like a longer taproot, I think for the most part we should be good with me just making sure the top couple of layers are very, very soil. Very, very much soil. But that is it. I hope for my next video we will actually be outside and putting in the strawberries. I'm just waiting for it to warm up a little bit so I can make the beds, so the strawberries can actually go into those beds before they die inside or get too leggy and then die on me that way too. So the sooner I can get those guys done, I will bring you guys back for that. I have not figured out how I'm going to be doing the videos on this channel. I haven't figured out my style. I don't have an editor to edit my videos down. I edit those myself. So if you guys have any tips on things you think might be working for this, I plan on doing gardening videos. We will be getting some livestock this year. We've already got plans for chickens. We have talked about goats, which we haven't decided on whether or not that's actually going to happen, but after we get our fence around, we have an area on the other property where we will likely get a couple of pigs. So that is all like slowly going in the process. This year, my main focus is the garden and the chickens, and that's going to be my main focus. The other stuff will come over time. Plus, I would like to do some daily vlogs where I'm talking about different tips that I have, things that I have learned over time. And then, of course, the What If series, and I would like to expand the What If to include a lot more, I don't know, newsworthy things. Like if there's a particular article that has come out that concerns me that can also go into a what if, even if it's not just like this article is about this what if, it's this article is about a thing. Now, if thing does this, then what if this happens? That kind of logic, but it's taking like real world stories that people might be concerned about and what ifing like the best worst case scenario and things like that. So if you guys have any ideas, let me know. I'm going to consider myself on this channel a brand new content creator, even though I do have content on other channels. The format is completely different. I am already trying to figure out ways of getting my camera in my hand more often. I'm just used to coming in here and recording, which is why most of these videos are me here sitting at the desk, because this is where I record for my videos. It's an extra step for me to remember to grab my other camera and make sure it's charged and everything else like that and take it to where I'm doing things. I had an idea where I was like, what if I decide to do a pantry clean for this next year and talk about why it's so important to make sure your pantry is taken care of for the next year? Let me know if you guys are interested in something like that, and I can talk about ways of organizing a pantry, why it's good to clean it, good ways to clean it, how to keep it stocked and organized, and things like that. So if you guys are interested, let me know. If you have ideas for videos, let me know. I am an open book on here as far as the content that I am doing. I don't necessarily have a strict regiment as of yet. So I would love the feedback. I will see you guys soon. You have a wonderful day, a wonderful night, and you stay shiny. Bye.